Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and both the New South Wales and Queensland teams have been announced. Well, at least the squads have been announced for Game 2 of the 2021 State of Origin Series, and I thought it'd be fun to go over the side, sort of give like a first impressions, give a little bit of reaction or review of the team, and sort of just give my thoughts on who should have been picked, who shouldn't have been picked. First off, I'm going to talk about the New South Wales lineup because I think it's the most sort of, standard sort of side. It's probably the best sort of side New South Wales could have picked. Obviously, Jake Trbojevic is out, so he's not going to be in the frame of selection, but New South Wales have actually going against what they've done generally in the past, and they've named a squad rather than an actual 1 to 17, which is what I'm pretty sure they did for Game 1. They just named the 1 to 17. You had the 18th, 19th, and 20th man, whereas now it's sort of, we're not exactly sure, but I think they're kind of going off the back of, well, you kind of know what our lineup's going to be, so we don't really need to name it. I think it all comes down to whether Finucane gets a last spot or Angus Crichton. Now, for me, I think Angus Crichton gets it. However, if they want to go for a more like-for-like sort of player, I think you go with Dale Finucane. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if Lee Martin drops off out of the side as well. Because I think your starters, I think you still go with Cameron Murray. I know a lot of people have called for him to go to the bench, but the one you're seeing on the screen right now, this is actually by Daniel Kemp, bloke in a bar. So he's put his predicted sort of lineup. And I think that's pretty spot on with what I think they're actually going to go with. So Cameron Murray, I think he retains his spot. Same with Tarek Sims, which means that on the bench, there's a spot for Angus Crichton. And I think he just comes straight in because, Jake Trbojevic, he was in the starting lineup. Payne Haas was there, and I believe he will end up starting. And if he does, then it's going to be Junior Paulo. I think you're going to add one of those guys into the starting side. However, actually, I could see if Dale Finucane ends up playing, I could actually see him being in the starting side just to sort of lock down the defence at the start and just kill any sort of momentum Queensland could get, and then just hope the backs sort of take over. Because that's, I think, what we did in Game 1. Our defence was fairly solid, but we just came flying out of the gates, and the backs really took over. So our defence was good enough in the middle, and then also the backs just absolutely destroyed. Tommy Turbo, in particular, he destroyed. But yeah, for the blue side, there's not really too much to talk about. In the previous game, I did videos going over the New South Wales side and the Queensland side individually, but like I said, not really too much to talk about for New South Wales, so I figure may as well just do it all in the one video. And then also, I already did a video talking about Jake Trbojevic being out, and I said in that video, I think he'll be a huge loss. However, if there was any player out of that 4-pack to come out, apart from him and maybe like Tarek Sims, I feel like you can get away with it. The rest of them, I think that actually would be a pretty big loss, a pretty significant loss, but Jake Trbojevic, I think he does a lot of the stuff that you sort of don't really notice, so I could be completely wrong here, and he could be a huge loss for New South Wales, but he's also not that guy who's going to go in and just run over the top of players. He will absolutely tear a player in half. He will tackle all day. But in terms of what the rest of the side brings, I think they can cover Jake Trbojevic for this game. But now we're moving on to the more sort of interesting sort of lineup. In Queensland, once again, they come out and announce a squad. However, what you're seeing on the screen, once again from Bloke in a Bar, they put together a predicted lineup. I think the Courier Mail had the exact same one. I was going to use the Courier Mail image, but this one looked cooler. So we're going with this one. So they've actually gone with Reece Walsh at fullback, with Valentine Holmes and Kyle Felt on the wing. So that's interesting because I thought Kyle Felt was absolutely terrible in Game 1. But I think in fairness to him, obviously, it was his debut. The whole team got absolutely destroyed. So I am keen to see how Kyle Felt goes in a second game. However, if he doesn't perform up to scratch, if he doesn't even perform like a 6 or 7 out of 10, you 100% have to get rid of him. Xavier Coates, at least he's shown in the past he can actually perform for Queensland. Kyle Felt hasn't even shown that. So the fact that he's on the wing and Xavier Coates got dropped, I don't disagree with it, but it's just an interesting little selection there. Is there like a little bit of favouritism for Paul Green, former coach of Kyle Felt? I don't know. But look, the big thing is Reece Walsh at fullback. That's a very interesting one to me, and I think it's a very, very iffy sort of pick. I don't know if you've got anyone really better to pick, but like considering Brimson ended up not playing yesterday for the Titans, so I think he would be your number 2 if Kalyn Ponga is there, but obviously both of them aren't there. So what do you do with your side? They've gone for Reece Walsh. The guy's played like 5 or 6 games. I think he's played 6 NRL games. All at the Warriors. Some of them he's come off the bench. Some of them he's played at 5'8", and now he's at fullback. And obviously he is a talent. He's 100% a talent, but it's a lot of pressure being chucked into a State of Origin game. Also a must-win State of Origin game against arguably the best ever New South Wales side. And Queensland have come out and put together, I know last year they talked about it being the worst Queensland side ever. This one isn't far from it. I know they won last year, and obviously that changes a lot of things of the narrative of the Queensland side not being that bad, but look at this side. On paper, does not look very good. Reece Walsh, the guy's played like 6 games. You got Val Holmes. Look, I didn't think Val Holmes did too much wrong at the fullback position. And for me, like if you haven't got Kalyn Ponga or Brimson, I think you keep Valentine Holmes at fullback. At least he's got experience. He was there in the last game. Like I said, he didn't do anything really wrong. I mean, they conceded 50-odd points, but how many of them were Valentine Holmes' fault? I know his positioning and like his defense wasn't fantastic, but at the same time, like Reece Walsh's game, it's definitely not based on defense. Now I think Walsh's selection at fullback, if it does happen, that is, like, because this isn't confirmed, this is just sort of a rumoured side. But look, if him at fullback, I think it's more due to the fact that what use is he off the bench? I know they had Callum Ponga come off the bench, but Callum Ponga is a little bit bigger, he's a little bit more explosive, whereas Reece Walsh, he's that small, little nippy guy, kind of reminds me of Ben Barber a lot. So I think you go with him at fullback just purely out of the fact that he's no use off the bench. Now, another interesting selection, we go through the rest of the side. Kurt Capewell retains his spot with Gagai in the centres. I don't really understand that one. Thought Kurt Capewell got super exposed in that last game. I know last year he got away with it, but he was up against Clint Gutherson, who's not even a centre himself, but he's now come up against Tommy Turbo and Latrell, and I say both of them because they've just been roaming around. So you're coming up against all these backline players who are just ripping him to shreds because he's a forward playing in the back row against the elite of the elite. It doesn't make sense to me, and I think they're struggling for second rows at the moment, as well as evidenced by the fact that they've chucked Jai Arrow into the back row, a position he doesn't really even play at club level. He either plays lock or prop, and I think it's crazy to move him out of that position, but they've gone and done that. Capewell's there. Looks like they're going to be moving David Fafita to the bench as well, and I think that's a crazy move as well. I know Cameron Murray absolutely locked him up, but I think you got to give him another go. He's arguably the best second rower in the whole comp, and you're dropping him to the bench after one game. I think, I don't know, for me, Paul Green, I think he's lost his mind here. I think the team selection, I know they had to make changes, but the ones they're making, to me, they aren't good changes. I mean, look, like I said, Kurt Capewell's still there, and that would have been one of the first things I looked at and went, yeah, Capewell, we need to get rid of him in the centre. He's good enough to be in the second row, as we've seen with Penrith. He's literally playing in the best team in the comp, and he plays second row there. He's not playing centre. We know he's capable of playing centre if there's an injury or something, but yeah, I don't know. I think it says a lot about the Queensland side, the fact that they've kept him in the side, because I suppose there's no one really screaming out to be selected in the centres. But the rest of the side, like Munster, Cherry Evans, great halves pairing. Christian Welch, be huge. I say inclusion. He barely played last game, and I think he's huge to the Queensland side. I think if you're realistically looking at like who are these players that actually make the New South Wales side, I think Christian Welch and I think Cameron Munster are the only two players. Maybe Josh Papali, someone like that, but the rest of them don't go anywhere near to this New South Wales side. Actually, maybe Kafusi might get into the New South Wales side just purely for the fact that he's been around for a long time, he's played in super successful sides, but even then our second rowers seem to be pretty decent at the moment. All of a sudden we've got an influx of second rowers. We're talking about whether Angus Crichton's going to make the starting side or not, and he's probably the best second rower in the comp at the moment. I was talking about Fafita being that, but I think Angus Crichton is the best second rower at the moment. But yeah, like McCullough, I don't understand the McCullough. Like, he's not even playing that well for the Dragons. He played there a couple of years ago, didn't play that well. He's just kind of like an average guy who can kind of do a couple tackles, but is that who you want as your hooker? You want a guy who can just defend half decent. You know they're gonna have to score points to actually win this game. And on one hand, they're going with Reece Walsh at fullback, and it looks like they're going balls to the wall attack. And then they go and pick McCullough, who's a bit of a plotter in attack. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's either you go one way or the other, and they're sort of half-assing it, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, Reece Walsh at fullback got no defense, and then you go McCullough, who's all about defense. And I don't know if their logic is, oh well, Reece Walsh won't have to make tackles because, you know, we'll have guys like McCullough in the middle just making tackles, and also like Fafita's not there too. But I think they're the least of your problems. Who else they would pick, I don't really know, but for me personally, I would go Ben Hunt, but I understand him being on the bench just due to utility value. But at the same time, if you're banking on their sort of needing to be a utility, like you could have moved Ben Hunt around anyways, and you could have put somewhere else there. Like, I feel like you could have shifted other players, and there's plenty of other players who would be better than McCullough. But then at the same time, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any, so maybe there's not. I don't know, but look, it just shows you how much of an error it was, not only to sort of play Harry Grant when he wasn't ready. Well, I suppose that part was okay, because he wasn't terrible, but the fact that they let Reed Money go back and play for club, that's the big glaring issue. And for me, Paul Green, he needs to take a lot of accountability for that one, because that's on him. He's the one who selected Reed Money to start off with, when, oh, Harry Grant, you don't even need match fitness, we're just going to select you as a starting hooker. You can go back and play for your club, Reed. Reed goes back and plays. Harry Grant gets sort of discovered or sort of gets exposed in the game, and then sort of both of them didn't work out. Harry Grant didn't work out in the starting side playing the whole 80, and Reed Money obviously went and got hurt. And now going into game 2, Harry Grant's out and Reed Money's also out, and now you're being forced to play McCullough. I think the fact that McCullough is even in contention shows you how far Queensland have lowered. They went from having Cameron Smith, man. They had Cameron Smith, and their backup was Ben Hunt if he was injured. Even guys like Matt Ballin over the years, you know, played 1 or 2 games, that was it. There were plenty of good hookers who weren't getting a go. Even like Jake Grenville in his prime couldn't even get a go. And yet we've got guys like McCullough who he was another one who couldn't get a go in his prime, and now he's literally at his retirement home, and he's getting a selection in the Queensland side. It's just, I can't believe it. And look, the rest of the side, it isn't much better. I mean, like I said, they're sort of going with Fafita on the bench by the looks of things. You got Papali back in the side, but like he hasn't really been setting the world on fire for the Raiders. Obviously, missed a large part of the season too. Talked about how tired he was, and a lot of it came down to Origin last year, as well as the boxing. But look, he is definitely going to be a big inclusion, and at his best, he's probably the best sort of forward in the world, best prop, best wherever he's going to play. He's the best forward in the world at his best. But is he going to be at his best? Probably this State of Origin. He does usually play pretty well. Whether they win or lose, he usually plays pretty well. But the rest of the side, like Jai Arrow, Kafusi, Tino hasn't really been playing that well. Ben Hunt on the bench, I do like that selection. I think they should have done that in the first game. Kafota who was arguably the best player for Queensland last game. Fafita and Molo, I don't understand Molo. Cohen Hess finds himself back in the squad. I don't understand Cohen Hess. I don't understand how he keeps getting picked. Even for the Cowboys, I think he's lucky to get picked. Look, when he first came onto the scene, huge fan of Cohen Hess, but he's just gone downhill so quick. And he's the most puzzling one. And I think Mulatalo even confirmed this like on a live stream. I saw him doing a Twitch live stream, and he's like, I'm 18th man for Queensland. And I'm like, so he's 18th man, yet you got guys like Kurt Capewell and Reece Walsh in the side, even Kyle Felt. Like, you can't tell me Mulatalo wouldn't be a better selection than Kyle Felt at this point. Like, Kyle Felt didn't do anything to sort of deserve to retain his spot in game one. He was absolutely terrible. And then you got Mulatalo on 18th man, who's been killing it for the Sharks. He's a young up-and-comer. He's probably what they need. They just need that little young swagger. And that's what I mean. They're sort of half-assing it. On one hand, they're going young, they're going attacking. Then on the other hand, they're not. They're going for McCullough and guys like Kyle Felt and stuff like that. It confuses me, the team selections, but that's alright. I'm a New South Wales fan. I'll take this team. This is, I don't want to say it's worse than last year's side because they won last year, but like it probably is a worse side on paper than last year, and that says a lot considering that dudes like Brenko Lee and Edric Lee playing. Anyways, guys, that's my thoughts on the side. That's my little review. Leave in the comment section below. What are your thoughts of the Queensland side? What are your thoughts of New South Wales side? Who do you think's going to win? I think it's quite obvious. I think New South Wales should win this one on paper, but we've seen in the past, paper means absolutely nothing except for game one. It meant a lot there, 50 points. But is it going to be replicated? We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, leave in the comment section below. What are your thoughts of these sides? Do you think there should have been some changes to the Queensland side, changes to the New South Wales side? Let me know. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give this video a like if you happen to enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And also make sure to turn on the notification bell. It's super important in terms of you actually seeing my videos. Uploading a lot at the moment, uploading nearly every day. So use the notification bell. Don't miss any of my videos. You'll get a little notification on your phone or whatever device you're using, and you can click on it, leave a first comment, leave a like, do whatever you want to do, but just use the notification bell. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. My Facebook is just Mr. Luke, but everything else is Mr. Luke and YT. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me an ad, do all that sort of stuff. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content on the channel. More importantly, stay tuned for more State of Origin content on the channel. Pretty much what this week's going to be. So, like I said, stay tuned for more State of Origin content, and I'll see you for the next one. See yous.